UNEP data highlights growing adaptation financing gap. The latest 2025 findings from the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, show that even if countries fully implement their current pledges, global warming is still projected to land in the 2.3 to 2.5 degrees range this century. For insurers, lenders, and operators, that projection is not symbolic. It is the baseline used to test portfolios, infrastructure durability, and long-term asset exposure. And it is higher than the targets most governments publicly commit to. The adaptation funding gap is measured in hundreds of billions. UNEP estimates that developing countries may require up to $365 billion annually by 2035 for adaptation. Flood defenses, cooling infrastructure, water systems, resilient transport, and upgraded buildings. Current funding levels are far below that number. When adaptation spending lags behind exposure, the gap does not disappear. It shows up later in emergency rebuilding costs, insurance claims, higher borrowing costs, delayed infrastructure upgrades. The financing shortfall becomes a multiplier. Buildings sit at the center of the exposure. Residential and commercial buildings account for nearly 40% of Europe's total energy consumption. At the same time, roughly 90% of the global population is exposed to air pollution levels above recommended health thresholds. Those figures are not abstract sustainability markers. They are signals that building standards, retrofit requirements, and emissions regulations are unlikely to loosen. For property owners and infrastructure investors, that means capital planning cannot assume regulatory stability. Energy efficiency, ventilation upgrades, and resilience retrofits increasingly function as risk controls, not optional improvements. Governance is expanding, not retreating. UNEP's core programs mobilize roughly $3.3 billion globally across environmental initiatives. That funding level underscores a broader reality. Multilateral environmental governance continues to scale. Reporting standards, methane monitoring, pollution controls, and adaptation planning are not slowing. Even where political rhetoric shifts, technical implementation continues. What this means in practical terms. This is not a warning of imminent crisis. It is a reminder that exposure assumptions are adjusting gradually and quietly. If warming trajectories remain above 2 degrees Celsius and adaptation financing remains underfunded, then insurers will continue differentiating by geography. Capital providers will continue pricing resilience. Supply chains operating in exposed regions will carry higher variability. Environmental due diligence will grow more granular, not less. Markets rarely move on declarations. They move on expectations. The expectation embedded in the current data is clear. Physical risk is rising faster than adaptation investment, and financial models are already adjusting to that reality. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment and Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.